Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's show. I'm your host, Zach Drew.
And I'm Andrew Bellers.
All right, so we got a pretty important show for you today. But before I get started, I just want to say thank you for those who are tuning in for the very first time, possibly watching on Comcast Cable.
Yeah.
And just kind of let everybody on the audience know, the Zach Drew Show is now in Sacramento, California, Denver, Colorado, Detroit, Michigan, Minneapolis, Minnesota, Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Salt Lake City, Utah, all on Comcast Cable. The channels are listed there.
Yeah.
And just so you know, if maybe some of you have only been watching on Facebook, or maybe, we have a lot of people that really just watch on YouTube.
Yeah.
Just so you know, we're also on Amazon Fire, Android through Google Play. We're also on Apple iOS through the App Store.
Yeah.
Apple TV. We're on Freecast Select TV, and also Roku.
And I know a lot of people listen to us too, and we're pretty much anywhere that you can find a podcast.
That's exactly right. Yes. So for those of you that are watching, thank you so much. And I just want to say that those that are supporting this show, this ministry, I'm just so grateful for you, and I love to hear from you. I got such an incredible message, actually just last night from a lady on Instagram, a partner named Lorinda. And it's funny because it really encouraged me. She was just really thankful for the content that we provide each week, Andrew.
That's awesome.
And it's funny because you may think that we get a lot of encouragement because we're on TV. People are always saying, great job, awesome job. It's actually the exact opposite. We're on an island by ourselves. We don't have a parish with parishioners. We don't have a church where we have, a few hundred people that are saying, hey, good job or keep up the good work. We're like I said, an island unto ourselves.
Yeah.
So I just want to say thank you for the encouraging words this week, Lorinda. And for any of you watching, and we're gonna get into the show, and I'm just gonna be as blunt as I can. Like I've said before, we did really well for fundraising for this studio. Every dollar that came in for the studio went towards the studio, but the funds themselves, other than the studio, have been down. And I really feel, and I'm not worried or anything, but I hope the people that are watching this show feel a burden to get behind this show, this content, young, conservative, Christian, patriotic men. We're both in our 20s. We're kind of a freak of nature doing what we're doing. And what we want to do is we want to conserve what our founding fathers established in this country, and even more importantly, what Jesus Christ can establish in your hearts.
Yes.
That is what our goal is here. And if you want to get behind us, if you want to support a young ministry, please go online and just go to zachdrewshow.com. Click that donate button, and then if you click the orange donate button again, it'll send you to Tithely, or the blue link there, it'll send you to PayPal. Mm-hmm. And you can become monthly recurring partners. Even if it's just $20 a month or $50 a month or $250 a month, whatever it is, it helps us each month continue to do what we're doing. And turbulent times are coming.
Yes.
And that's why we're even talking to one of our friends about finding a way to create a reserve fund for this ministry. Because troubled times are coming. And they're coming sooner than you think. Right now, it's like we kind of in this, it's going to be Donald Trump versus Joe Biden. Here come the big debates and kind of, 2016 round 2. I think it's going to be more serious than that.
Yeah.
Whenever we take into account Dana's word and just the current climate of things, I think it's going to get way more serious than that.
I really do feel, and I think there are times that lots of us have felt this because things are accelerating so rapidly. But I really do feel like in America, we are at a turning point in a sense that we never have been before.
That's right. And sooner or later, because the Bible is real, and like I've said before, the government of the son of perdition will be communism. Sooner or later, America will fall to socialism.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it's not this election. And then it'll go into communism. But if Joe Biden is elected, I believe that we are close enough to the Lord's return that we would never recover, okay?
Yeah.
We would never go back to, what it has been like under President Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Listen, I want to talk about Glenn Beck for a second because I'll go ahead and say it right up top. If you can afford to buy some silver, if you can afford to buy some food, non-perishable 20-year shelf life food, now's the time to do it. As Glenn Beck recently said, we're in the middle of a global reset. A global reset. And just so you know, it's organized by people that aren't on your team, okay? You need to understand that. This global reset, these people do not have your best interests in mind. And maybe you just want to just have this normalcy bias, like it's not going to come to you, like my life is never going to change. It's going to affect your life. It's going to change your life if they can succeed at this. Coronavirus has changed our life. Our lives will never be the same again. I'm going to show you statistics, how American life will never be the same again because of it. And we're in the midst of this global reset. As Glenn Beck was saying on his program this week, we're in the middle of that. We're in the middle of the biggest, most well-funded global coup. And COVID-19 gave its leaders the perfect, most convenient tool to destroy the Western economy and start anew. Check out his show this week. That's literally what he was saying. This is from Glenn Beck, this section. To start anew. Because once the Western economy is destroyed, all things are possible. That's why, Andrew, we've talked about it before, that America stands in the way of globalism.
Yep.
That if you can get Western society to fall, you're never going to recognize the world again. Imagine if Hitler would have won World War II.
Yeah.
And communism throughout the world. If Western society falls, you're never going to recognize the world again. We're at that moment in time. Wake up, people. Oh my gosh. I mean, if I just go through my Twitter feed or my Facebook feed, it's like so many people are just blind to the times that we're living in. I'm going to say that again. If the Western society falls, anything is possible. That's why, according to Glenn Beck, that the World Economic Forum is using today's coronavirus chaos as their chance to reset the global economy with targeted focus on things like inequality, with climate change, and of course, as we know, the big Marxism reset. You've got to destroy capitalism. But I am encouraged in my feeds as well because smart people see it coming.
Yeah.
People that, and I truly believe that people that have the living God inside of them, there are certain things that can only be discerned spiritually.
Yes.
And they can see it.
Yeah.
Look at this article. I'm not going to read it quite yet, but this is the headline. The price of gold and the price of silver are both soaring into the stratosphere as the global economy collapses. I tried to buy it this week. I tried to, not silver, gold, but I tried to buy an old barometer this week.
Yeah.
And tried to find out Facebook Marketplace and couldn't meet up with the guy. I wanted to show it to you and just say, do you know what this is? It's kind of one of those, hey, if you lived in this generation, you'll understand what this is. But if you've lived after this, you're going to have probably no idea what it is.
That probably would have been me.
Yes. and a barometer. A barometer, I have the definition here, is an instrument measuring the atmospheric pressure. It's used especially in forecasting the weather, to forecast what's to come. It's an instrument that measures atmospheric pressure. Gold and silver prices are a really good barometer.
Yeah.
To measure the pressure of how the average American is feeling about the current state of affairs. Yeah. You see, the less stable that people feel in the dollar bill will be reflective in the price of gold and silver. The less stable people feel, the more gold and silver are going to skyrocket. And that is what we're seeing right now.
Because gold and silver are stable.
That's right. Precious metals. Let's get into the article just really quickly. This is from Michael Snyder. He has the Economic Collapse blog and several other, his websites have been literally viewed hundreds of millions of times.
End of the American dream.
Yes, exactly. So let's read this article for a moment from Michael Snyder. For years, some of the brightest minds in the precious metals industry warned that the price of gold and the price of silver would both rise dramatically once the global economy inevitably collapsed. And it turns out that they were right on target. What we have been witnessing over the last several weeks has been nothing short of stunning, and many experts believe that this is just the beginning. There are so many elements of the perfect storm that are now upon us, and global events are happening so fast it is hard to keep up with them all. But one thing that you can pretty much count on is that almost every piece of bad news is good news for the price of gold and for the price of silver. As currencies all over the globe are being devalued at a staggering rate, it was inevitable that we would see gold and silver rise, and that is exactly what we have witnessed. In fact, this week, it was on Monday, the price of gold set a brand new record high. Gold touched record prices as worries over issues such as the coronavirus pandemic, as well as the U.S.-China tensions, weighed on investor sentiment. On a percentage basis, the price of silver is actually moving even faster than the price of gold. And on Monday, we witnessed a move which surprised just about everyone. You see, I think, and now this is just my thought, I think the price of silver is moving faster than gold because we've always been told that silver is the poor man's gold. It's the average man's gold because the average person cannot afford gold. I mean, it's not this high, but if you're thinking about buying, $2,000 worth of gold, you're going to get about an ounce.
Yeah.
So I think it really is the average American that is feeling unsteady with the dollar bill, with the current economic crisis that's taking place, and they're the ones fueling the rise of silver. I wrote here in my notes. I was going to read it. The average American cannot afford gold, and I have family and friends truly buying as much silver right now as possible, but not as much gold though. You want to know why? It's very, very simple. Because it's a lot easier to deal with $5 and $10 and $20 bills than $500, $1,000, and $10,000 bills.
Yeah.
Right? And you see, the Federal Reserve, they recognize that. Actually, according to the federalreserve.gov, it was on July 14th, 1969, the Federal Reserve and the Department of Treasury announced that banknotes bills in denominations of 500, 1,000, 5,000, and 10,000 would be discontinued. Why? Because of their lack of use. Did you know that? See, I knew that there was $500 and $1,000 bills. I remember my grandpa who went to home to be with the Lord a few years ago. I remember him showing me his $500 and $1,000 bill. So I knew they had existed.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was a $10,000 bill.
No, I'd never heard that. I wonder it'd even be on it.
But listen, the Federal Reserve really was like what? They were like what? Well, it's kind of stupid for us to do this.
Yeah.
Because the average American cannot deal with $1,000 bills, $10,000 bills. So they literally just completely made them, completely discontinued them. And that's kind of the analogy I'm drawing between silver and gold. That's why the average man is buying silver, not gold right now, because we're not all millionaires.
Right.
And here's the thing. If the economy collapses and you need to go on, I don't have a link or anything, go on eBay. And I think, and verify, but I believe if it's before 1964, okay, and verify that, but that's the dimes you need to be buying because the majority of that single dime is silver. So go on eBay. Buy several rolls of silver if you can afford it. Because if this thing happens, and here's the thing, if it doesn't crash in the fall, you're still going to have silver. And it's still going to be worth something.
Right.
It's not like it's a bad investment. It's not like silver's going to tank and be worth nothing. No, precious metals will until the very end when we cast them out into the streets,
right,
when the Lord's return comes, they will always be worth something.
Yeah.
And so go out and buy them because in that day, it'll be easier to buy a loaf of bread with a dime, which would be worth about $5, than a little piece of gold, So you basically will buy that piece of bread for $100. What are you going to do? I mean, that's the most ridiculous saying ever, right?
I mean, when you're talking about hyperinflation, if what's it going to cost in actual dollars? It's like you could give them a dime of gold, or you could literally give them $300 for a loaf of bread.
That's right. And so just so you know, since mid-March, just one more statistic for you. Since mid-March, the price of gold at one point in time went up 90%. And let's go to the next section right now. All of this is taking place while absolute nonsense is taking place in the stock market. All of this buying of silver, the instability that people are seeing, the barometer of silver and gold, measuring the pressure in America, and while it's all going up, people are feeling so unstable. What's going on with the stock market? And I'll tell you, I was a sucker in the beginning. I saw some things. I thought I could make some money, and we don't have very much money, so $1,000 is like $1 million, right? But anyway, that's a whole nother story. All this while the stock market nearly went back up to pre-COVID-19 levels. Think about that. After the Dow dropped a staggering 11,000 points, it's now, at one point in time, it nearly completely recovered. And since then, what we have seen? I'll tell you what we've seen. We've seen too many days in the stock market with 500 and 1,000 point swings. That is what we have seen. And I'm always reminded of Rick Joyner's word. The first time I heard it, I was actually on set with him, and he is a pilot. He would actually always fly his little plane to the show. Yeah. And as a pilot, he said, whenever you see the temperature gauge going from hot to cold, from hot to cold. In other words, whenever you're seeing these large swings in the world, and I'm attributing this right now to the stock market, the Dow and to the Dow. Whenever you see these large swings in a plane, do you know what it's a sign of? Engine failure. That things are about to explode. Stocks recovering, which doesn't make any sense. Stocks recovering, all while the Labor Department announced that another 1.416 million Americans filed for new claims for unemployment benefits last week. Prior to this year, the all-time record for a single week was 695,000. So let's stop there. The all-time record for unemployment filed in a week in the history of America was 695,000. Just last week, over 1.4 million.
And something that we have to think about is some of the effects of that have not fully hit us. People are feeling that on an individual level, but as time goes on, I know someone personally who was getting unemployment benefits, but she was getting extra because of COVID-19. Well, her work opened up. She didn't get back to work. She was not asked to come back in. And so her benefits went back down, and now she's still out of a job. And that is going to affect the economy in a way that we haven't seen yet.
That's exactly right. 52 million Americans, 52 million Americans have filed for new claims for unemployment benefits. 52 million. And that's why, going to your point, Andrew, it was Michael Snyder who recently said this. Here's a quote from Michael Snyder. Great point. Our politicians want to encourage people to go back to work. But for millions upon millions of Americans, the jobs they once had are gone forever.
Yeah.
24.5% of small businesses in the United States were closed.
And those people definitely, that's tragic. But small businesses, it's not like those people are going back to work. You
That's
know what
right.
I mean?
Yes.
Their businesses are gone. There's not a business to go back to.
That's right. So this month, 24.5%, all of small businesses in the United States closed. And you're exactly right. Many of them will never reopen. I mean, get this, 76,000 small businesses in New York City alone will likely never reopen. A grand total of 40 million Americans could potentially be evicted over the course of the next couple of months. All this while the stock market's going up. Listen, I'm going to get to it, but a tsunami's coming. A tsunami's coming. You need to get ready. The strongest waves will likely hit this fall. Don't forget about Dana's word. Dana's word about hyperinflation and banks losing money. You need to prepare for it. Actually, you know what? Just by way of reminder, go ahead and play that clip from Dana right now.
I saw bank buildings with the roofs being taken off. And it looked almost like alien abduction because money was just flying through the roof into some type of like a vacuum cleaner. I know it sounds kind of strange, but I was watching wealth just being taken. The second dream I had last night, and it woke me up. In this dream, we just had a yard sale to help fund a team going to Ecuador this next year. And we had a yard sale. And I had asked our secretary to get us some change. I walk into the bank to get some change. And on the door it says there's no change available. I saw the sign, it registered in my mind, but I walked on in, and the president of the local bank was at the teller station. And she was going to be taking care of business. And I said, I need to get $10 in quarters for a yard sale. And she said, I'm sorry, but the U.S. Mint is no longer making currency or making change. And I said, well, how are we going to be able to charge $1.50 for anything? And she said, prepare for hyperinflation and just charge $2. And then she said to me in the dream, oh, and by the way, $1 and $5 bills will follow soon after that.
So what do we do? What do we do with this information? The fact is, a tsunami of sorts is coming. Like in a tsunami, the earthquake has already happened to create that tsunami, right? Mm-hmm. The waters have already receded on the beachfront. The strongest, most devastating waves are likely going to hit this fall. So where do you find yourself in this tsunami? Are you the person who is enjoying the waters on the beach receding? More beachfront now to enjoy? Maybe you have a house on the water and, hey, my real estate just went up. I have twice as much beachfront property now. You see, understand that whenever a tsunami takes place, that the waters on the beach recede and recede and recede. Which are you? Are you the person enjoying that beach? Or are you like the intelligent animals in a tsunami that instinctively, what do? They head for the high ground. They head for the mountains. Yeah. If an animal has enough instinct to head for the high ground, we, as creatures made in the image of the living God, should have enough discernment to see what's happening. It's time to head for the high ground. For that analogy to continue, basically what that would mean is you need to prepare. You need to prepare. Did you know, here's an interesting fact. Did you know that the first wave of a tsunami is usually not the strongest, but the successive waves get bigger and stronger after the first wave? You see, the first wave that has crashed the United States has been COVID-19. Yeah. That was the first wave of the tsunami. But the first wave is never the strongest in a tsunami. Did you know that in a tsunami, if you're caught by the tsunami wave, you should not attempt to swim, but rather try, the word is try and grab a floating object and just allow the current to carry you. In other words, if you don't prepare now, you will not get to dictate the direction you'd like to go. You're just going to have to hold on, go with the flow,
hold on tight,
and hope you make it. Who are you? Are you the man on the beach? Or are you preparing right now and heading for high ground?
It's like the parable that Jesus said about building your house on the rock or on the sand.
Thank you.
Yep, it's just like that. And the irony is that that piece that you're holding onto is probably from your house that the value just went way down. 'Cause
That's
it just
exactly
got
right.
Destroyed by a tsunami.
That's exactly right. Hey, listen, this ministry, we don't have any products or anything, but I did want to make it easy for you. We put a couple of links in the description if you're watching on YouTube, and are those links going to be on Facebook as well?
Yes.
Okay, so we put some links there, some long-term food that we approve. I've had, my wife and I, we are preppers. We are very prepared. A couple of links to some good food, 20-year shelf life food, just to prepare. And that's one of the things. If nothing happens, guess what? Something's going to happen in the next 20 years, and a lot of that long-term shelf life food is actually good for closer to 30 years if it's kept in a decent climate. And so you're not going to be wasting your money if you buy long-term storage food.
Right.
Also, another thing is we just put some water filtration systems that Alyssa and I, we use all the time. Once again, we're not selling these things. They're just on Amazon. There's the links. And other things that we don't have links for, you need to get a water barrel. You need to get things to have an excess amount of water. You need to get silver if you can afford it. Silver dimes made, early 1960s and before, and hard assets. But I want to leave you with just a quick reminder. And guess what? You might hear it. There's a massive jet going over my studio right now. I'm reminded that though all this might happen, guess what? If the world goes to hell, guess who's not? Those that have the Lord.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of this song, and I was reading it right before the show, and I just put it in the bottom of my format because it's just so good. The last few lines of Amazing Grace, talking about heaven. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright, shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. Eternity. Eternity is a long time.
Yeah.
It's about an infinite.
It's about infinity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the moment you were conceived in your mother's womb, I was going to say in your mama's womb, with the moment you were conceived in your mother's womb, that moment of conception, you became a forever person. You became an eternal being. You will never, ever, ever die. And there's only two places after this small vapor we're living in right now that you're going to go. It's either heaven or hell. Heaven or hell. And the deciding factor is if you have repented of your sins, turned from your ways, and called out to our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, you make him your Lord, you make him your master, salvation is yours. We're totally out of time for today. We'll see you next week.